Stotra Satta Srimad. His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kohor Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Shyamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Navadvip Dham ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Tulsi Maharani ki jai. Jamuna Devi ki jai. Ganga Devi ki jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrindi ki jai. Gaur Premanande. Kartik Dämodara Vrata ki. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Hari Hari Bol, Hari Hari Bol, Hari Hari Bol. So today is the first Sunday of the month of Kartik. Before I begin, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. The month of Kartik is also known as the month of Dämodara. It is the most auspicious month for Gaudiya Vaishnavas, devotees of Krishna who follow the path chalked out by Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. On Friday, beginning the Kartik month, is the night Krishna dances Rasa Leela. He also dances on the full moon of the next month, which coincides with the Tulsi Vivaha. So today, since we are in the month of Kartik, and I have been studying and preparing for this month all week, then I'm going to speak about the Dämodara prayer and the Dämodara Leela. The pastime of Krishna, where he gets this name Dämodara, because Krishna's names are derived from different categories. Some of Krishna's names describe his position, his qualifications, his attributes. Some of his names are given because of the Leela. For instance, Krishna's name is Dämodara because in this Leela, his mother tied him up with ropes. And other names of God signify his relationships with his devotees, just as Krishna is referred to as Yashoda-nandana or Devaki-nandana or Rukmini-ramana or Rädhä-Ramana. All these different names are because of his relationships with his devotees. Also Parthasarathi. So in these three ways, we derive Krishna's innumerable names. As Lord Chaitanya teaches, Nam Nam Akari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shakti. My Lord, you have hundreds and millions of names, and in these names you have invested all your potencies. So when we chant the holy name of God, then we are coming in touch with so many different potencies, spiritual potencies. So in the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Shukadeva Goswami outlines and gives nice information about Krishna as Damodar. It is not clear exactly what age Krishna was, but from my study, he was between the age of 1 and 5. Because there is information of a pastime that took place when he was 1 year old, and there's information of a pastime which took place when he was 5. It is not specifically stated by Shukadeva Goswami what age Damodar Leela took place. But we do know from different acharyas that the pastime of this Damodar Leela took place on Diwali Day. And the background information is as follows. Previous to this particular episode, Krishna and Balaram were performing very many mischievous, naughty activities. They would be going to the neighboring houses, stealing butter and yogurt, breaking the pots of the neighbors. And sometimes when they were not pleased with what they were eating, they would pass stool and urine in the neighboring houses. Some of the neighbors were complaining to Mother Yashoda. So Mother Yashoda told the neighbors, then why don't you keep your stock of butter and yogurt hidden in the dark so the boys can't find it? And the neighbors said, no, your son, they have some kind of effulgence, and even in the dark they can figure out where is the butter and yogurt. So on this Diwali day, Yashoda was very concerned that why my son is so restless. Why is he going to neighboring houses in order to steal butter and yogurt? Perhaps he is not satisfied with the food he is getting at home. So it was known, Yashoda, because she's the queen of Vrindavan, her husband Nanda is the king, and that being, Yashoda had several cows that were very, very unique and special. And so these cows would give milk that was very, very flavorful. So it was the milk of these cows that Yashoda was personally churning butter for Krishna on Diwali day. Yashoda being the queen, she had many maidservants, but on this day, she decided she would personally churn the butter. Shukadeva Goswami in the Srimad Bhagavatam gives a detailed description of how Yashoda appeared with flowers in her hair. He gives a description of how she was churning and how she was very busily engaged. At this time, young Krishna approached his mother because he wanted to drink the milk from her breast. Mother Yashoda, being the affectionate mother of Krishna, stopped the churning and allowed baby Krishna to suckle her breast. As she was doing, she was looking at the beautiful face of her son. Yashoda is unaware of who Krishna actually is. Yashoda is not cognizant of the fact that Krishna is the origin of the deity that Yashoda worships. Yashoda worshipped Narayan. But Yashoda is unaware that this Krishna is the origin of Narayan. She is unaware that her son is the absolute truth. She's looking at the beautiful face of her son, and her motherly love and affection is fully realized by her. But as she's feeding Krishna, she hears the milk on the oven is boiling over. So she has to take care, because she is a very dutiful mother. And so she has to take care of the milk boiling over. So she stops feeding Krishna and puts him down in order to take care of the milk overflowing on the stove. Krishna is not very happy by this action. He was not finished. And so when Yashoda stopped, Krishna bit his lip and he became very angry. And he took a stone and threw it at the pot that Yashoda was using to churn the butter and broke the pot. And he stepped in the butter and then ran away. Meanwhile, after Yashoda took care of the boiling milk on the stove, returned to see that her son was gone, the pot had been broken, and she reasoned, this child, although very naughty, is also very intelligent. Because after breaking the pot, he is now hiding himself. But Yashoda, being very intelligent, could trace out where Krishna had gone because his footprints, because he had stepped in the butter. All she had to do was trace the butter footprints. She turned the corner, and there was Krishna. He had stepped up on a huge wooden grinding mortar that was used to grind spices. And when she saw Krishna, Krishna was looking this way and that way, because he suspected that at any moment Yashoda would find him. And he was also taking yogurt and feeding it to the monkeys. Then Krishna saw Yashoda, and he jumped down from the grinding mortar and ran quickly. And Yashoda had come with a stick in her hand. And Krishna, seeing his mother angry with the stick in her hand, he became very much afraid. And he ran this way and that way. Yashoda, being a fully grown woman, had full breasts, big hips, so she could not run very quickly. But after some time, she captured Krishna. And the scene is there. You see it many times in painting. Krishna is fearing the angry face of Mother Yashoda with a stick. Shukadeva Goswami makes this philosophical point. Shukadeva points out, Krishna, the absolute truth, everything is afraid of Krishna. In the Bhagavatam there is a statement, it is out of fear of God that the wind blows. Out of fear of God the sun rises and sets. And there is also a verse very early in the Bhagavatam, in the first chapter, that fear personified is afraid not only of Krishna, but of Krishna's name. What to speak of Krishna? So Shukadeva points out, so this very same Krishna, who fear personified is afraid of his mother. And for Kunti, when she offers her prayers to Krishna later, after the battle of Kurukshetra, when Krishna is about to return to Dwaraka, when Kunti stops Krishna and offers her prayers, one of her prayers is that this scene of Krishna being afraid of his mother, Kunti says, I'm bewildered by this. That you, who everyone is afraid of, and you are afraid of your own mother, Yashoda? Kunti says, this sight is bewildering to me. When Yashoda saw, and Krishna, he was crying, and he was rubbing his eyes. And so, Yashoda, being a very good mother, she was thinking that if my punishment is too harsh, it may have a psychological effect and the child may not grow up to be normal. So she threw the stick away. But still, she had to punish because he had done much mischief. She was not that kind of parent that lets the child do whatever. No. She had to administer punishment. So she gathered some rope. She figured, the child is too restless. Let me tie him up. Let me at least stop him from his naughty activities. But here, an amazing miracle takes place. When it was time to tie the final knot, the rope was short by 2 fingers, 2 inches. So she called the servant, bring more rope. She added the rope, but it was time to bind the final knot. It was still 2 fingers too short. She called for more rope. No matter how much rope she called for, when it came time to tie the final knot, it was still 2 fingers too short. In fact, she had added so much rope, the 2 inches from each of the ropes that was added should have been more than enough. Finally, she became flabbergasted. She became totally frustrated. And meanwhile, many of the neighboring women had also come and they were laughing. Because they could see that no matter how much rope, Krishna could not be tied up. When Yashoda gave up in defeat, Krishna smiled, and now he allowed, that's the key word, allowed himself to be tied up. In the prayer, the Dämodara-kathä prayer, there are two important words, bhakti baddham. Can everybody say? Krishna was not tied by ropes because he already showed. And if he wanted to, you could have gotten all the rope in the universe. It still would have been 2 fingers too short. But Krishna allowed himself to be tied up, and that's why the phrase bhakti baddham. The only way to tie up Krishna is by bhakti. No other way. That is the lesson here in this particular part of the episode. You cannot capture God by karma or jnana or yoga other than bhakti. This is exactly what Krishna himself says in his Bhagavad Gita, at least 3 places. Chapter 8, he says, you want to know me? Bhakti. Then in chapter 11, after showing the Vishvarupa, again Krishna concludes that episode by saying, Arjuna, if you want to see me as I am, only by unalloyed bhakti. Not by penances, austerities, sacrifice, charity, no. Bhakti. And then in chapter 18, just before Krishna concludes, he says, if you want to come to me, only bhakti. And it's proven here by this episode of Yashoda trying to tie up Krishna. So Yashoda tied up Krishna to the wooden grinding mortar. And she was now happy. Now she can continue her housework, which is another point I like to make. Even you're the mother of God, you still have to work. Not that, oh, I'm the mother of God, bring me limca, let me watch ZT. No. Mother of God has chores. God does not like his devotees to be lazy. So Yashoda has tied up Krishna, and she is now going about her household chores. And while Krishna is tied up to the grinding mortar, he starts to think, my mother thinks that she has tied me up and that I won't do any more nonsense. I'm going to do even more nonsense. Krishna, tied up to the wooden grinding mortar, looks out into the courtyard. And he sees these 2 big Yamala Arjun trees. And Krishna, he's God. Even though he's a little child, doesn't mean he's not God. It's not that Krishna becomes God when he turns 16. No. Just ask Putana. When Krishna killed Putana, he was at least less than 1 month old. So it doesn't matter what age Krishna is or what form he is, he's still dynamite. He's still all-powerful. So Krishna looks in the courtyard and goes, oh yes, those 2 trees are actually 2 demigod sons of Kuvera that Narada cursed. And Narada wants me to deliver them. What had happened previous, these two sons of Kuvera, Manigriva and Nala Kuvera, were once sporting in the celestial, you could say, erotic grounds where demigods go to have amorous pastimes with apsaras. Famous place. So these two demigod sons of Kuvera, but they were human sons. Kuvera had these two human sons. So they were drinking a certain kind of intoxicant, and they were cavorting with these naked damsels, and they themselves were naked, when all of a sudden Narada Muni passed. The girls, they were not so inebriated. As soon as they saw Narada, quickly clothed themselves as is proper. You don't want to be exposed in front of anyone. What to speak of someone like Narada. But the two sons of Kuvera were so intoxicated, they did not bother to get themselves clothed. Narada could detect, these two sons of Kuvera, they have become puffed up. Because after all, who's Kuvera? He is the CFO of the demigods. He has gotten much opulence by the grace of Lord Shiva. So these two sons, you could say, we see this happen sometimes in human society. Rich men's sons become degraded, puffed up, or we say brats, spoiled. So Narada said, because of material opulence, these two sons of Kuvera have become degraded. I must act for their deliverance. They like to be naked. Let them become trees, and they could be naked for hundreds of years. No problem. But a sage like Narada not only curses, but also gives a benediction. The expression is a blessing in disguise. It appears like a curse, but it'll eventually turn out to be the supreme benediction. So Narada said, you too will become trees, but in the trees that will appear in the courtyard of Nanda Maharaj, and you will be delivered by Krishna. So for hundreds of years, they sat there in those form of trees. So Krishna began to crawl. And as he's crawling, he's pulling that wooden grinding mortar. And he crawls through the trees. The grinding mortar gets stuck, and Krishna pulls with great force. The trees come crashing down, and when they do, the two demigod sons of Kuvera appear, shining. And they offer prayers to Krishna. And the prayers they offered to Krishna were prayers of surrender. It appears that during this time, as trees, they had somehow or other developed the desire to want to become devotees. So Krishna said, yes, I know what is your inner desire. You want to become my devotees. Krishna said, the most advantageous thing that happened to you was that you saw Narada Muni. Krishna doesn't take credit by saying the most auspicious thing is that you saw me. Krishna says, no. Someone like Narada Muni is like the sun. Krishna said that was your most fortunate opportunity. He desired your deliverance. Just like for me, Srila Prabhupada is my son. S-U-N. Srila Prabhupada also desired the deliverance of the Mlechas and the Yavanas of the United States of America. And that's why I'm here. So Krishna told Nalakuvar and Manigriva, now you can return to your home, but now you will act like my devotees. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Now I want to speak on a few of the verses of the Dämodara-kathä prayer. But before I do that, I would like to share with you, I did some homework this week. I wanted to know more, as much as I could, about the month of Kartik and what benefits you can get by observing it. In this month, you should not eat urd dal. You should not eat masura dal or lentils or rajma. These foods should not, and also eggplant. These foods should not be eaten in this month. Now, during this month, Gaudiya Vaishnavas, they sing this prayer, Dämodara-kathä, twice, morning and evening. And in the studies, if you offer lamps during this month, you get unlimited blessings. So, lamps should be offered to Krishna morning and evening. If only you're going to get so much ashirvad. Now, for me personally, I want to read to you some benefits you will get. This information is found in the Skanda Purana. There is a conversation between Lord Brahma and his son Narada. Here is, I picked out the highlights. By reading the holy name of God, or the episode of Gajendra's liberation, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama. In the Bhagavatam, there is the narration of Gajendra Moksha. So it says here, by reading the names of God or reading the episode of Gajendra's liberation, one will never again experience birth and death. Moreover, those who hear Krishna Katha in this month, each 1/2 verse or 1/4 of a verse yields the fruit of donating 100 cows. So, here's 1/4 of a verse. Sarvardhan man parityaja. There's 1/4. You can thank me later. Okay? Indeed, O great sage, all other duties should be given up in favor of hearing scriptures from holy men. So whenever there's an opportunity to hear from the scriptures, take advantage. Be it for spiritual benefit or with other expectations, by engaging in Hari-katha, one uplifts hundreds of family generations. So, you came today, your forefathers are smiling on you. You have uplifted them. A person will burn all sinful reactions and gain the fruit of 10,000 sacrifices for each day of Kartik spent in the delight of the scriptures. So, read. If you like Bhagavad Gita, read that. Srimad Bhagavatam, read that. Brahma Sanghita, read the Vedic scriptures. In fact, Madhusudana is not as pleased by sacrifices or by charity of cows and elephants as he is pleased by discourses from the scriptures during the month of Kartik. So I'm going to do as many discourses as I can cram in this month. I want to maximize my spiritual account. O eminent sage, by hearing Hari-katha, one can transcend the distress accumulated in millions of births. By regularly trying to read Srimad Bhagavatam during this month, one gains the benefit of reading all 18 Puranas. Srimad Bhagavatam. All right. So is that enough impetus? All right, everybody chant the Maha Mantra. So, the song that Gaudiya Vaishnavas sing morning and evening this month, Dämodara-kathä, was composed by Satyavrata Rishi. And last night, I did a Hari-katha, and I spoke on the first 4. So I'm going to pick up from verse 5. So in verse number 5, he says, Namo Deva Dämodara-ananta Vishnu, Prasida Prabho Bhuka Jalabdi Magnam, Kripa Drishti Vrishtyati Dinang Batanu, Grihane Shamam Agyam Ejakshi Drishya. So I just did a whole verse. You got more benefit. O Supreme Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. So there's the first thing. Satyavrata in this prayer is meditating on the form of Krishna, Bala Gopal. Everyone say. This is the form of Krishna as a young child, Bala Gopal. And he's already said in the prayer that he doesn't want any benediction other than constant remembrance of this form as Bala Gopal. Those who belong to the Vaishnava sect, Pushti Marg, they also are very fond and worship this form of Bala Krishna, Bala Gopal. Then he says, O Damodar, everybody say, O Ananta, O Vishnu. So Damodar means that Krishna was tied around the waist with the rope. Ananta means he's unlimited, and which he proved, 2 fingers too short. How can you tie up something unlimited. Can you tie up the sky? The sky is also unlimited. You cannot lasso the sky. So Krishna's name is Ananta. She found out, Yashoda found out, can't tie him up. O Vishnu. Vishnu means that God is all-pervading. He's in everyone's heart. O Master, O Lord, be pleased upon me. Shower me with your merciful glances. So, what are the benefits of coming to the temple and gazing upon the deity? You get the merciful glance of Krishna. By looking at the deities as long as possible, you are getting so much benediction. Deliver this poor, ignorant fool immersed in an ocean of worldly sorrows. Satyavrata is showing us what is the proper mentality. That mentality is taught by Lord Chaitanya in his third Shikshastakam. The proper mood to approach the Lord is one of utter humility. That is the only way that we can attract the attention of the Lord. That's all He's looking for, is our meek and humble attitude. If that is there, success is guaranteed for you. And become visible to my eyes. Just like during the Ratha Yatra period, the song is Jagannatha Swami Nayana Pathagami Bhavatu Me. Because for 2 weeks, the deity is not visible in the temple. So the devotees pray, Lord, kindly be visible. You cannot demand. You can only beg out of humility. Okay, next verse. Kuvaratmajo badda motyaiva yadvat Vaya mochitao bhakti bhajao kritao cha Tata premo bhakting swakang me prayatscha Namokshe graho mesti Dämodara-kathä. Another verse. You're racking up a lot of points today. O Lord Dämodara, as a baby tied to a grinding mortar, you delivered Kuvera's 2 sons from the curse of Narada and made them into great devotees. In the same way, please give me pure loving devotion for you. Now here is the point. There are different kinds of devotion. The 2 basic kinds, mixed and pure. When devotion is mixed, that means it's mixed with something material, knowledge, or some kind of fruitive material desire. For instance, Dhruv. When Dhruv began his devotion, it was completely material. His intention was, I want a kingdom greater than anyone. So his bhakti was completely mixed with a material fruitive intention. It was not pure. But Dhruva is very unique, because even though he had this mixed devotion, still the Lord agreed to appear to him, which normally doesn't happen. And quite amazingly, God gave him complete fulfillment of his material desire and then said, after you've enjoyed the material world for 36,000 years, and you will have unimpaired senses, in other words, you won't grow old, and you all know what that's like. He would live for 36,000 years, and his senses would still be young, like a 16-year-old buck. Huh? Remember when you were 16? And all this energy, everything was fresh. Now we're 50, 60. Can't do what we used to do, huh? But Dhruva for 36,000 years would have full sensory power. And then the Lord says, and after that, you're going to go to your own spiritual planet. Trifecta. But what did Dhruva say? When the Lord disappeared after blessing him completely materially and completely spiritually, what did Dhruva say? I'm a fool. Dhruva said, I'm a fool. I worship the Lord, who is a great diamond. And what did I ask him for? Broken pieces of glass. I should have prayed for the Lord, not this stupid kingdom. So Dhruva kicked himself. That is pure devotion. So that's why throughout this prayer, Satyavrata repeatedly says, I don't want moksha. I don't even want Vaikuntha. I just want this vision always of you as Damodar. So that's why he says, please give me pure loving devotion for you. I long for this alone and have no desire for any kind of liberation. This is the epitome of pure prayer. He's not asking for anything. All he wants is pure bhakti. Nothing. He doesn't want anything. My Lord, simply let me have this love for you, this eternal love. And let me always envision this form of yours as Bala Gopal. So this prayer of Dämodara-kathä is very, very powerful. And if you go through it like I'm going through it line by line, then you will understand what is the perfection of bhakti. As Lord Chaitanya also teaches in his Shikshastakam. Lord Chaitanya says, Na danam, na janam, na sundaring. I don't want wealth. I don't want popularity. I don't want nice, beautiful sense gratification like Manigriva and Nalakuvara. And then Lord Chaitanya says, Mama Janmani. I don't even mind if I have to take birth after birth. But Lord Chaitanya says, but please give me the salary of ecstatic love. Could you imagine going to your boss tomorrow morning and saying, boss, you don't have to pay me. I'm going to work for you because I love you. You're not going to do that. But devotees will do that with God. God, I don't want anything from you. Just let me serve you. And with that, I'll end. Everybody raise your hands and repeat after me. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Hare Rama. Rama Rama. Thank you once again for allowing me to speak Hari-katha, especially in this month of Kartik. Narendra, I love you. Thank you.